If you're posting on LinkedIn and wondering why nobody's buying, I want to share something that completely changed the way I think about content. Most people are paying attention to the wrong audience. They're watching their likes, they're watching their comments, they're looking at who engaged, and then they're assuming those are the people most likely to become clients. But in my experience, that's often not true. The people commenting on your posts are usually the most visible people in your audience. They're networking, they're building relationships, they're trying to grow their own audience. And the people who eventually hire you are often doing something very, very different. They're lurking. They're reading your posts, they're checking out your profile, they're watching your videos, they're saving your content even, but they're not necessarily liking and commenting. And the thing is, what they're doing is they're lurking. They're doing it completely silently. In fact, I've had people book consulting calls with me and tell me they've been following me for 6 months, and I never knew. 0 likes, 0 comments, no DMs, nothing. I had no idea they were even there, but they were paying attention the entire time. And once you understand that, it changes everything about how you create content. Instead of writing for the people in the comments section, you start writing for the person quietly consuming your content and trying to decide if you're someone they can trust. That's a very, very different audience. For example, let's say you're a coach, consultant, founder, or a service professional. The person reading your content may be sitting at their desk right now wondering if they should finally start marketing themselves. Maybe they've been putting it off for months. Maybe they're overwhelmed. Maybe they've bought courses before that didn't work. Maybe they're afraid of looking for stupid online. They're not going to jump into your comments and announce all of that, but they're thinking it. Your content should speak to those thoughts. Instead of trying to sound impressive, try sounding understood. And then that example obviously was for me for marketing, but that's for any of you, whatever that you're doing. And one of the easiest ways to do that is by talking about the problems people are actually experiencing. For example, I see a lot of content that talks about outcomes, right? Like, so for me, it would be get more leads, grow your business, make more money. And that's fine. I use that as well. But people usually buy because they want to solve a problem. The founder who's lying awake wondering where the next client is coming from because they might have to close their shop, right? Because they're not making enough money. So I need to make sure when I post for those people, I talk about that. Are you lying awake at night, not sure where your client is coming from? Are you worried that you might have to close your business? That kind of stuff. When your content reflects those experiences, people do feel understood and trust starts to build. The second thing I'd encourage you to think about is how you're measuring engagement. Most people just look at comments. I think saves are often so much more important. Think about your own behavior. When you see something really useful, do you always leave a comment? Probably not. But you might save it. You might screenshot it. You might bookmark it. You might even send it to yourself. And that's exactly what your audience is doing too. Some of the best performing content I've ever created wasn't the content that got the most comments. It was the content that people kept coming back to. Like frameworks, I have my own frameworks, right, to make them special. You should do the same. Checklists, step-by-step processes, things they could actually use. Those are the kind of posts that create trust because they help someone solve a problem. The next thing that helps convert lurkers is specificity. Generic stories don't work nearly as well as specific stories. For example, let's say you're sharing a client success story. Most people say something like, my client increased revenue by 30%. That's nice, but if it doesn't create much connection, it's not going to work. What creates connection is talking about where they started. Maybe they thought they were too inexperienced. Maybe they thought their audience was too small. Maybe they were convinced LinkedIn wouldn't work for them. Those details matter. A lot of times I like to do the before and after, right? So for you, you could do the same thing. Before they worked with you and now that they have stopped working with you, what kind of success did they see beyond just the numbers? The reason you want to do that is because someone reading your content, they think that's exactly where I am right now. People connect with a struggle before they connect with a result. That's why case studies are so powerful when they're done correctly. Not because they show success, but because they show transformation. And transformation starts with a problem. Another mistake I see people make is thinking they need to sell harder or sell all the time. Honestly, most people don't need to sell harder. They need to make buying feel easier. That's the difference. You don't need every post to say, book a call, DM me, apply now. Instead, help people understand what working with you actually looks like. Talk about your process, talk about your frameworks, talk about what happens during the first session, talk about the mistakes you help people avoid. Let them see behind the curtain. The more familiar someone becomes with how you work, the less risky it feels to reach out. Something random that happened to me just the other day, I posted about my pond, and the person reading it were like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking about doing a pond. We had a couple of DMs, and they ended up hiring me for marketing. Completely had nothing to do with pond. But they somehow saw themselves in me because I was doing this pond and they were working on a pond. So you have to think about that too, right? You need to be a real human. Maybe because you're a mom, someone's going to work with you. Maybe because you have a dog, someone's going to work with you. So you want to bring that humanness in there with you. And remember, right, lurkers are evaluating you. They're evaluating you on your personality and they're evaluating you on the outcomes that you help. They're trying to decide if you're actual credible, if you're a real person, if you're trustworthy. And then, of course, they want to know if you understand their problem and if you're worth their investment. And you don't need to pressure them if you're doing all this right. You just need to reduce uncertainty. And you want to make it ridiculously easy for someone to contact you. This sounds obvious, but believe it or not, a lot of people make it harder than it needs to be. Someone decides they want to work with you. Now what? Do they know where to go? Do they know what happens next? Do they know how long it takes to hear back from you? Do they know if they're booking a call, filling out a form, or sending a message? The more uncertainty you create, the fewer people take action. People are already nervous about reaching out. Don't add more friction. Make the process super simple. Because here's what I learned. The people who quietly follow you for months or even years in my case are often your best clients. They've already consumed your content. They already tested your ideas. They've already built trust. By the time they reach out, they're not starting at zero. They're already halfway convinced that they want to work with you. So if you're posting on LinkedIn and wondering why you're not getting a lot of engagement, don't automatically assume your content isn't working. You will have to figure that out because it could be that your content is not working, but it could just be people are lurking. Someone may be reading every word. Someone may be watching every video. Someone may be saving every useful post, and they may become a client 6 months from now. Your job is not to impress the loudest people in your audience. Your job is to help the quiet ones trust you enough to take the next step. Because chances are your client might already be watching you. They're just doing it silently. All right. If you don't need more help, I have a LinkedIn audit, totally free, 15 minutes. That's all it's going to take you. It's a cloud artifact that's going to be more interactive. So try that out. And then also get on the wait list for my LinkedIn Client Growth System program. Super good way to kill on LinkedIn. I teach all the things, how to write, what to write, when to write, what your profile should be like, SEO for LinkedIn, and we'll also help you create a bot that speaks in your language and your brand language so then you can go even faster. All right, and another LinkedIn video is right here, so watch that one next. See ya.